Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know what?
You wore your tall shoes. Thank you.
She is bringing back Kiss.
Yeah, that's
And it should
exactly
happen.
right. Platform saddles. I like it. Hi, guys.
Well, you know, this is kind of an interesting time to be T.J. Miller, right? There's a lot going on.
It's fairly surreal. Yeah, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, wait, what's happening? Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy, and it's nice because what I'm beginning to find is that finally I'm starting to naturally become associated with projects that make sense, which means
Right.
sort of nihilistic, ridiculous, self-aware, not taking yourself seriously type things are the things that I'm doing, and that always was present in stand-up. But now, for instance, Deadpool, I was just laughing. My wife Kate and I were watching the trailer for Zach and David Need a Wedding Date, I think it is, but it's Adam Devine, Zac Efron thing. And I was sort of close to doing that movie. It was between that movie and Deadpool, and it just it makes so much more sense being in Deadpool. That's so much more my speed or brand or whatever douchebag thing you want to insert in there. And yeah, I mean, once you see Deadpool, which have any of you guys seen it? No, it is. It's pretty different, and it's pretty raw, and it's very R-rated, and it's a very different superhero movie. So love it or hate it, because it will be polarizing for some people. I think love it or hate it, it hopefully will change the landscape of the comic book movie genre,
Right.
if only by being R-rated. It's like,
Sure.
that's such a different thing for a Marvel movie to have the words cock thistle in it. And it was nice for me because I am an R-rated comedian in the sense that I do Silicon Valley, and it's not raunchy, but my stand-up is an adult sort of themed. It's for adults. And so it's so funny in this superhero movie to be able to say whatever the fuck we want. I thought that was great. It's like serious, right?
Yeah. No.
Fuck yeah.
But here's the thing: it's kind of self-aware of being a comic book movie.
Yeah.
So if you're making other kind of comic book movies, I think this could make kind of the industry a little nervous. You know?
Yeah, well, and certainly, and I hope. But I really like that. Silicon Valley. It's like I think the people in Silicon Valley are so ridiculous. There's some of them are just the worst people on the face of the planet, and so with that, we're really trying to satirize and deflate a little bit of the ego in the Valley. Deadpool, I hope, does the same thing for comic book movies. That it's like, don't take yourself too seriously. So many of these movies, you get to the third act or something, and you know what's going to happen. Everything that you've seen, you've kind of seen before, and you almost can, mouth the words from the final speeches along with the movie. That's how formulaic it's gotten. Sure. And so Deadpool, from the outset, from the opening credit sequence, is really telling you, like, this is going to be a bit different. This shit is totally bizarre. We don't take ourselves seriously. And hopefully it takes a twist or turn that... One of my favorite moments in the movie is that final Marvel speech by Colossus about being an X-Men, what it is to be a hero. And if you watch the movie, we really take that down a peg.
Right.
Halfway through it. Excuse me, I smoke marijuana. Go ahead.
Yeah. But not now, not at this moment.
No, I can't. There's Sirius. You can do a lot of shit on Sirius you can't do on terrestrial radio, but you cannot get high in the New York studio at all.
We've only actually even had a couple people smoking cigarettes.
Really?
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't in California. If you're like, you can wake up at 9 a.m., get high, and then chastise someone for smoking cigarettes. If you ask somebody for a cigarette in Los Angeles, in New York, if you ask somebody for a cigarette, usually they're like, yeah, I got one. In Los Angeles, if you ask someone for a cigarette, they call the police. They're like, are you a criminal? What are you doing here?
But marijuana, wide open.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah, it has medical benefits. That's weird. You say that in Los Angeles, everyone's like, yeah. Here in New York, they're like, does it?
Right.
I can't imagine. No, not like there aren't delivery services for marijuana here in New York City that we all have the number of one in our phones now.
Whatever happened to Cartoon Network, though? That's the one that disappeared. It used to be called Cartoon Network was the name of it.
Was the name of a delivery service?
Yeah, you could get it anywhere.
That is so funny. Just the idea of like, hey, what do you guys want to do today? Should we call Cartoon Network? They must have got a lot of weird calls.
Yeah, they did. And then, of course, when they do get busted, it shows up in the paper like, oh, they were masking this for children.
Right.
You know?
Oh, no, not at all. And marijuana is for children. I don't know why everyone understands that. It certainly calms them down. They get kind of, don't let them smoke too much, or they'll get paranoid about Sesame Street talking to them individually.
This is coming from a guy who does voices for Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Disney and DreamWorks, I think, have been really cool about understanding that, like, my advocacy for marijuana is not only being an enthusiast and playing one on TV, but also understanding that, like, we're in the midst of what will become a green rush, and marijuana is going to be our only economic weapon against our enemies in the East.
So that, again...
Did you feel everyone in here be like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Wait till you hear me talk about Germany. Yikes. Yeah, but I kind of, they've been cool about sort of understanding that I feel strongly about, I think that's a very progressive thing. I'm from Denver. A very progressive thing for the United States to be doing right now is legalizing marijuana. And I don't encourage children to use it, but if you're an adult, I will say that some of the children's movies I've been in are more fun when you're high.
Sure.
Well, specifically, Yogi Bear 3D.
Now, when you got offered that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, that was literally a big role for you to get.
Which Yogi Bear 3D?
Yeah, I mean, you joke about.
No, I don't joke about it. It's the best, and I'm not. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is the best movie that I've ever done. My performance as Ranger Jones in that film, the best talking bear comedy that has ever existed in the history of cinema, was sort of a tour de force that I won't be able to match. So it's interesting to be a comedian who the pinnacle of your film career has already happened, and all of this, I don't know why you guys are laughing. All of this is kind of a slow downward spiral, and Deadpool's on the way. So, yeah, I mean, you know, that movie was this thing where... you know, I think Transformers 4 I did ironically, but Yogi Bear 3D I was really, really strongly in favor of making that the best movie it could be. I think in part because I watched Yogi Bear growing up, and then also Ranger Jones. Unlike Weasel, Ranger Jones isn't a real character. That was a fictionalized. They made that up for the film. Whereas with Deadpool, it was the first time I'd ever had to be like, well, are people going to be mad if I don't do Weasel correctly, or if it isn't true to the comic? Or, but Tim Miller, the director, sort of said, don't worry about that shit. Just do whatever you want to do. I think it was Ryan who had the onus to like be true to this. Do any of you? I had never heard of Deadpool. Had you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I'd
beforehand?
heard about it, and because the fact that this project has been bouncing around for a while. For
over a decade, yeah. Anybody else in the audience, have you guys ever heard of, or did you read Deadpool beforehand? Yeah? Yes, okay. So one guy, and that's great. Oh boy, here we go, opening weekend. Valentine's Day, it's just him being like, anybody else come to hang out? I mean, I hadn't heard of it, and then... Once I sort of understood that it was an R-rated comic book movie, and I obviously think Ryan Reynolds is very funny. And then when I talked to Kumail Nanjiani, who's I work with on Silicon Valley, he said, "Oh man, are you going to do Deadpool? It's the best. You're not even going to believe it. He breaks the fourth wall. It's all meta comedy. In the video game of Deadpool, he like reaches up and grabs his energy bar and beats the shit out of somebody with it. So in the movie, Deadpool's aware that he's in the movie. He makes fun of Ryan Reynolds. He kind of makes fun of superhero genre movies. So that seemed right up my alley, because they said, there's this Marvel movie that they want you to do, and I said, I'm not going to do a Marvel movie. Again, it's so weird. Again and again, I slowly get lured into doing things that aren't what I thought I would do in my life, because I'm a comedian. But people seem to like them. I mean, even Transformers, though my participation was ironic, it was a really good experience having so many people come and say like, oh, I loved you in that movie, or it was so funny because you were in the movie. So as long as I'm handling the comedy in the projects that I'm doing, I'm fine. But I always get people to going, so are you really excited? Are you really wanting to do a dramatic turn? When are you going to do your big dramatic performance? And I'm like, I did it in Yogi Bear 3D. I'm not doing it again. Like, people ask if I want to do a drama. It's like, fuck no. It seems so uninteresting, so unfun. And there's so many other people that are so much better at drama than me. I'll go ahead and let them do it, Christian Bale. Did any of you guys see the Critics' Choice Awards? Sure. I like to begin sentences, by the way, just yelling Christian Bale. Christian Bale. Did you guys see the Critics' Choice Awards? I just remember being on stage with this like 4-man puppet rig and doing my ridiculous baloney and just seeing Christian Bale. And he was sort of laughing, but I could see in his eyes that he was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And that's how I feel when I watch him. I'm like, how could you possibly... Have you been doing meth for 3 weeks in preparation for this? He's a method actor. I'm more of a meth head actor.
Well, you brought up the Critics' Choice Awards, and that was... No one's ever hosted an award show like that. And I also think
4 puppets attached to them.
4
Yes,
puppets
absolutely.
attached, and just really bringing this thing. It felt like we were saying like all the biggest stars in the world gathered on the Lower East Side of some kind of
that's exactly right. I mean, it was almost like I turned it into an alt comedy show from downtown. I mean, I said to A&E, that's another thing that didn't make any sense. I remember getting the call, and they were like, hey, the Critics' Choice Awards? And I'm like, yeah, that's the one where I accepted an award and basically told everyone to fuck off and that all this is ridiculous, and I don't take any of it seriously. They're like, yeah, they want you to host it. And I was like, what? Like, were they not there when I did my speech? But I think that they got it. The tone of the speech that I gave was irreverent but grateful. And so they kind of, and I called them and I said, when we had this creative call, I said, well, what are you guys, do you know what is going to happen if you let me host this thing? And they said, yeah, we kind of would like you to do your thing, which is always funny to hear like a middle-aged white person be like, we just want you to do your thing. I'm like, okay, thank you. But that was really it, was they said the tone of the show, you can dictate. And so then once I realized that, I was like, all right, then I'm going to go fucking nuts and see what happens. And it was really, ironically, very critically acclaimed. It was like very well received. And so that was cool. And it also made me realize that like, it was just a good platform to be able to be like, you don't have to Ricky Gervais. You don't have to like be like, Hollywood sucks and you all are whining babies. Everybody knows that. Everybody in Hollywood already is like, yeah, we're pathetic. We know. You don't have to keep telling people that over and over. Instead, I thought it would be a different approach to sort of say, culturally, America is at the forefront, and our media and Hollywood and all that is globally influential. And these awards shows, although we can make fun of them for being empty and ridiculous, we also should say that these people work their whole lives to make content and make movies and television that are important to people. So like, let's celebrate them. It's okay for us all to get drunk and congratulate each other. Like, let it go. So. Fuck you, Ricky Gervais. And and I wanted to make all these other jokes that I didn't get to make, so I'll do them here for you guys for free. But I wanted to be like, they wouldn't let me, my writers who are brilliant, that we're in this sketch group called Heavyweights. It's Mark Ratterman, Nick Vatterott, Brady Novak, and then Mr. Davis, who's my cousin Miller Davis, and one of the more enigmatic strange writers in Hollywood. They said, you can't spend too much time on Ricky because he doesn't deserve it. But I just loved, I made the joke about how awful of a person do you have to be to make us all feel bad for Mel Gibson? Like, that is so real, But then I love the idea of nobody makes fun of him. Like, nobody gets to be like, because what was he in? Like, Mel Gibson was in Lethal Weapon. Like, I know he's fucked it up, but don't get down on him. Like, he's a great American actor from the lexicon of American cinema. And then Ricky Gervais was like in Ghost Town, which is just, yeah, really. Go ahead and laugh. The only thing funny about it was that he was in it, and Ghost Town was less a movie and more a description of the theaters in which it played. And then the invention of lying, I'll invent a lie. Ricky Gervais has done anything interesting since The Office. There's a lie right there. So I really wanted to attack him almost as much as the teeth on the lower part of his mouth are trying to attack the upper part of his mouth. He's just an awful little puggish man who needs to stop yelling at Hollywood, which gave him a chance and it didn't work, and now he's the Hollywood Foreign Press's jester. Like, fuck him. Sorry. Can you tell I have a couple of opinions on Ricky Gervais? No one even knows how to pronounce his last name, including him. What's going on? He has a French last name, but he's a little puggish Brit. I don't get it.
Have you met him?
No, and I don't care to. What do I mean, I don't know what I like. The only thing I could say to him, I've said twice on your show already.
But this is one of the things about you. You come from an absurdist point of view with your comedy, but there's meaning to that for you in terms of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's interesting because I'm also, talking about is the surreality of sort of being me right now. People are actually, and Deadpool is going to be a big part of this, people are starting to be open to, or at least listening, kind of this positive nihilist absurdism that I'm kind of shilling every moment of the day. I think because people are connecting to it. It's like life in a post-meaning, post-religious society is really absurd, and a lot of us have a tough time taking anything seriously, especially with the political race. I mean, it's really hard for anyone with half a brain not to correctly assert that this thing is ridiculous. I think Donald Trump called Ted Cruz a pussy today or something like that.
Yeah, he did call him a pussy.
It's like what on earth is going on? He did.
Yeah.
The best thing about the political race so far has been the YouTube compilation of Donald Trump saying China, like over and over again. China, 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 China. Now what I'm China. It's so ridiculous. So people, I think, are relating to the absurdity of all this more and more, and then hopefully through my HBO stand-up special, I'll begin to open up the dialogue or begin the conversation about, like, okay, so if everything is really absurd and there is no meaning to any of this, so this all is meaningless, then what next? And Nietzsche's whole thing was like, the second that you embrace nihilism, you overcome it, and you can kind of create your own meaning. And that's the existentialist view of it. And they're really big on, like, we can make our own meaning, create your own sort of, symbolism and iconography and all that. And I totally am into that, but that also is ridiculous. They're so haughty and preachy about how nothing is haughty or preachy. So absurdism is a nice kind of nihilistic thing that is like just the heart of it. Just don't take it seriously. Don't get so mad about everything because it doesn't really mean anything. Don't be so evangelical about your particular meaning. Don't be so judgmental of other people. Like, just laugh your way through this because it doesn't last that long. And so it's that, and then I'm big into talking about death right now, which goes really well on comedy, serious radio shows. But I'm big on that too because culturally we don't, none of us talk about death, and we should, because it's the only thing that we all have in common, And when we start to talk about it more, then people will be less scared of it, and then when they release their death anxiety, then they can really live in a way where they feel kind of free and not afraid. So yeah, none of that is very funny. In fact, it's quite jarring. But somebody kind of has to talk about it, and I do feel that the onus is on young comedians to be. We are the new philosophers because nobody's reading philosophy. I think TED Talks are great, but I think more people listen to and pay attention to comedy than TED Talks. And so I'm hoping that a lot of comedians, especially the next generation after my class, start to sort of not take it seriously, but like take into account the fact that they have a platform where they can talk about meaning or non-meaning in a ridiculous way. And that's sort of the next step. There was the observational humor, then there's political and social satire, and then this is kind of the next step. Anthony Jeselnik and I talk about this a lot, and another comedian and producing partner of mine, Nick Vatterott, about sort of death is like the next topic to tackle. And I think that's great. I'm Epicurean about this. None of us, death and us don't intersect. When you're dead, you won't be around to worry about it. And so don't let it consume your life at all. Don't spend time being like, I've got to live longer. What's going to happen? It's too much. It's too much. It's so weird. And so lots of people, coming back to the cigarettes thing, lots of people are like, sometimes they're like, dang, you do this or that, and I don't smoke cigarettes. I smoke a lot of weed, but you know, aren't you worried about this or that? I'm like, no, I'm more concerned with living right now. It's fine. Everything will be okay. We're all going to be fine. Just go ahead and not take it seriously and enjoy the ride or whatever it is.
And that really amps up the role of what comedy should play in the society, because you got to put the laugh, and I guess tied with the orgasm.
Yeah. Those two are really fun parts of being alive.
Yeah. But those are the two things that we should be kind of focusing on.
I think so. And it is that perfect drug. You know, it is. I mean, Robert Kelly's a comedian that I respect a lot, and who talks about how there is a heroin to it for everybody, for the comedian, which is sort of what he was talking about, but also for the audience, that there is this drug that makes you forget everything that's going on, which is why we all pursue drugs all the time. It lets you forget what's going on, makes you feel really good and really happy. It's that perfect escapism, and it's not bad for you. You know, it's actually good for you to laugh. So as a drug dealer of that particular drug, which I'm sure my mother is like, great, my son's a drug dealer by his own admission. But dealing that drug, I think, is really important. But it's not just comedy. That's my favorite part of it. But it is entertainment. It's what you do for people, where they can check out and listen to your incisive interviewing of people that they're interested in and want to hear something different. That's yet again another way to check out. And as modern anxieties increase, because they can, and the more we're able to text and the more information overload, all this stuff, you need that ephemeral escape just for a little bit every day. So I think that the importance of comedy is growing in modern living, and unfortunately, in some ways, the importance of drama is shrinking. And that's why we see the blurring of these shows where people are like, wait, what? That's a comedy? Yeah. It's being described as a comedy? It's because even drama is realizing we better get more comedy into this, because that's what people need as much as drama. And to me, sometimes it's funny. It's like you see a movie or a documentary about how terrible things are, and at the end of it, you're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I knew. I didn't need to spend 2 hours being like, oh yeah, shit is really fucked up, you know?
Right.
So I think that's why comedy is becoming more prolific, you know?
Well, I think it's always
not prolific. That was completely the wrong word.
But I think it's always been connected, because if you look back at like silent films, that everything was about pratfalls, and I was thinking, why was that so funny? Because those people didn't have hospitals. They were literally so afraid of falling that the thought of falling became hilarious.
There was so much comedy back then in terms of cinema. And the great D.W. Griffith is not nearly as revered, in part because he's racist, is not nearly as revered as Charlie Chaplin.
Right.
You know? And even Chaplin and Keaton and Harold Lloyd and Harry Langdon and those guys, they really were delivering something that was very much needed during the Depression, and sort of as the First World War ended and the second one was coming. That was an awful time in America, or at least it was a really challenging one. Yeah. And so they really fulfilled that need. And I think that's why Charlie Chaplin is he, Mickey Mouse, and Michael Jackson are like three of the most famous icons in the history of the world. And Julius Caesar, but each equally as important. And only two of those were really that funny. Julius Caesar was kind of a snooze.
But that is, I think, that reflection that you were talking about, that comedy will rise up to whatever the society kind of needs at the time.
Comedy is our weapon.
Yeah,
that's why I'm so interested in absurdity. Is like, absurdism is our weapon against all of this. It doesn't make sense. Most of it's pretty tragic and sad. All of us are going to die. The people that we love and hold dear are also going to die. Very few of us will be able to achieve the transparency in a relationship, to achieve ultimate intimacy. It's really, the cards are stacked against us, but the second that you laugh at it and let the air out of it, then we immediately become powerful again. Right. And so that's kind of that's the platform I'm running for president on. Is like, use comedy and consume comedy, and in my case and other comedians' case, create comedy that then can be a part of everyone's arsenal to this like everyday warfare that we all go through. and you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, first world problems. Well, it's like everybody has problems and real problems, and they'll be there all the time. And you know, how many of these incredible rappers have told us mo money, mo problems?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. The more money you have, the more problems that will exist, and the more issues, and the more difficulties. And it just seems like every day it's mo and mo and mo. You know.
I just now
for lesser or more.
You know, this is the first time I realized that was short for more. I had no idea until this
You
very
thought it was
moment.
Mohawk. You're like Mohawk money, Mohawk problems. I get it. If you've got the money to get a Mohawk, you've got Mohawk problems.
So you can stick with this philosophy of, you know, it's a harsh world and then it ends, and yet at the same time your work is important to you.
I think, you know, for me, the meaning that I made out of this ridiculous charade is the comedy and the very, very boring things that I've just said just now. But for other people, it's different. But my family comes from Southeast Kansas, and so work ethic is sort of godly in their view. And I really enjoy my work, and I wish more people would find things about their work to like, instead of complaining or finding things to complain about, to find things that are really, really important. I had a great conversation with a UPS driver recently. Talk about California being so much different than New York. This guy delivered a package and I was smoking marijuana, and I was like, would you like some? And he's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So he sat down and he had this great perspective. He was like, you know, for some people, I'm the only thing they can set their watch to, that they know that if they send the package with us, that tomorrow it will be there. They don't know if they're going, and I'm speaking for him in this instance, but they don't know if they're going to wake up tomorrow. They don't know if their marriage is going to last through another day, but they are positive that we will come through for them when so many other people don't. And I was like, yes, exactly. Then that's how you find joy and happiness in your life and your work. If you can think about it from that perspective, instead of, I got to deliver another package after I just delivered a package, only to know that I'm going to deliver one more after that. So that is it too, is that comedy is really important to me, but it's also a reason I love the joke of like, I am living proof that if you have just moderate talent but work ethic that is insane, you can become very successful. So I really do believe that like, but the reason I have the work ethic I do is I really am driven by this mission statement behind the comedy that I'm doing. So that makes it very easy. It's not for me. I don't do stand up because there's this. Many comedians always are like, well, I just need approval. You know, I'm desperate for audience's approval. It's like, I really actually don't give a shit. I'm very happy. If Kate is happy with me, then I don't really need anybody else's approval besides her and myself. And I don't even particularly approve of this bullshit that I'm doing. But it is, I'm working for the audience.
Right.
I'm working, so I'm actually here, and all of you are my boss this afternoon. And that makes it really easy to keep showing up to work and not make it about me.
Well, a life in service is the way, it's supposed to be lived. And also, even if you think about it this way, if...
I love that turn of phrase, a life in service. Yeah, I really like that.
I want you to keep it. And if you
I'm going to say that I said it.
You could get a tattoo and say, look what I came up with.
Right.
And then I'll be like, I was in service to that
I
guy.
get a mohawk and a tattoo.
But isn't that true? I mean, like, when you meet people...
I'm going to get a tattoo that says, "Mo service, no problems."
Wouldn't that be odd if we found out that was true? Fuck, this sucks too. All right, on to the next thing. Let's just keep going. But in the same way, like it was somebody's thought of as good and bad, it doesn't mean that they can come really fast, you know? Like a dude, you know? And that's what I think.
I also have that as a tattoo.
I feel like a lot of people are trying to take that immediately from every kind of instance of their life, of no matter where they're going, it's all about themselves, and that never gives off the vibe.
And we're taught to do that. And like my overarching, I don't know how all this got so serious, but thank you for being so insightful and having the depth that you have. My overarching goal is eventually to have a nonprofit called Epicurators and to fight advertising with advertising. Okay, guys, I've spent a little bit of time thinking about stuff. Everyone's like, what is happening? I thought that's the guy from the Bear movie. But we've done it to ourselves, and it's not a bad thing. But with advertising, we tell ourselves every day that we're not good enough, and we point at ourselves as the thing that needs to change, to become better, for more people. With social media, even, we're like, look at me, look at what I'm doing. So we're telling ourselves to be that way, and so it just takes a little more effort to focus on being a bit more selfless. But I also, because I'm an absurdist, I also kind of, it doesn't bother me. It's like, it's fine. If your entire day is centered around how many likes you got on your Facebook post, or, if your Snapchat was good that day and if people enjoyed it, that's okay. That's fine. It's fine. The biggest thing for me is like, be happy, just as long as you can continue. But it's hard to be happy when you're constantly focused on yourself, and because of advertising, focus on what's wrong with you, why you don't have the TV, why you don't have a better car, why you don't have better breath, why you don't save more time with, doing this instead of that. So I think it's symptomatic. Anyway, the way that we'll use advertising is that we'll get money from people to put up ads about how bad advertising is, which we'll see if the billboard companies get behind that. But and also just to have advertising that, instead of saying you're not good enough, to have some advertisements that you walk down the street and they just say, literally, some of them that we've mocked up just say, and we still need the capital to do this, but just say, like, you're fine. It's fine. Like, it's going fine. You don't need anything. Kate's really big on this one that is just, you have everything you need. Like, that's it. That's all it says. It's fine. And I want to combine them. It's fine. You have everything you need. But yeah, so that is the end goal, is that if I can get a platform to talk about all this stuff, and then get people to get behind the idea, and I don't think this is far off, because look at how Bernie Sanders is making money. I don't think I'm far off. That just that if you see a billboard that you like and you're like, oh, that kind of like brightened my day a bit, that you hit a button on the app and you donate $1. And then we crowdsource the funds to keep doing that. And we don't need to eliminate advertising. I'm still a capitalist at heart. I mean, this, quote unquote meritocracy that we live in is the reason that I'm here talking to you guys right now. But just to have a little bit of advertising that is like, you're actually doing great. You know what I mean? You made the right choice on your toothbrush. Don't worry about getting a new one. That sort of deal, I
think it would be great if you just hired an advertising agency to handle that for you.
I would. I mean, I'm interested. I like Anomaly right now. We did the Shock Top ad, and I didn't talk to them about this whole thing. But, I think if you get the right advertising agency and you get people to get behind the idea, then it is like a real possibility. And even if there's like 3 billboards in New York and a few in Denver and a few in Los Angeles, that's plenty. Like, the weird thing is Deadpool has done something great with the marketing, which is they've sort of been like, hey, wouldn't it be ridiculous if we fucked around with the marketing? And then they have, and people have responded really well to it. So again, a project that I'm involved in that has the right tone and that people are responding to, that's good news for me. I'm thankful.
Yeah. And you feel like it's because you've been pushing so many years, going through a lot of projects, is why you're finally landing the ones that you're connecting
with.
with.
Exactly. And, it's not as if I don't do some stuff that maybe is not about me. It's about, even the Shock Top thing, it's like, that's me trying to do comedy on the Super Bowl for the Super Bowl audience. So if I was watching that ad, to be honest with you, I'd be like, all right, whatever. But it's not for me, But yes, Silicon Valley, Deadpool, this HBO special that you'll soon see, all of those projects seem to be the result of this unending and unrelenting work ethic that is, I've tried to be in enough things to just say to America, Dane Cook really didn't do it right when he sort of became super famous, and then he was like, I'm a movie star. And it's like, that's not how America works. They get to decide who their stars are. They even hate studios for trying to force feed us stuff. The American public will be like, no, we're not going to do that. But Kevin Hart is an example of a guy who did so much and worked so hard and was in so many different mediums. So you're asking America to trust you and be like, look, I'd like to be, and this is what I'm saying, is like, I'd like to be your clown. I've worked very hard to be a good clown because you all deserve a good clown. And that's why it's so many different platforms. I have a podcast, but I'm also on television, but I'm in movies, but I do voiceover, but that's not me like, grabbing to try, or clawing to be famous. actually being famous is isolating and terrifying and ruins your relationship with your family. It's for me, it's like if I get enough people to trust me, then I get to do what I'm about to do, which is write and be in a movie. So this movie Ex Criminals that I'm doing with DreamWorks, that is finally I'm able and I have the leverage to provide you guys with something which I hope is like one of these things like Deadpool for Ryan, which is like a great movie. Because I think once you make a great movie, a portion of the population, that's like their prized possession for the rest of their life. They're like, it's like, what's your favorite movie? And you have that movie, and the reason you have that and you know what it is immediately, and everybody does. Some people, I don't know if you guys hate this, but when you say to somebody, "What's your favorite movie?" I hate when they're like, "Oh, geez, there's so many." You're just like, shut up and tell me the movie that you had the most connection to. And so that's what we're going to try and do with Ex Criminals. And then I will alienate an immense amount of people with The Nihilist, but I have a movie called The Nihilist, and it's, that's going to be right now at this point in my life, that's my offering up to America. And I hope people like it. I think they will connect with it. I think how much you guys all will like Deadpool is it signifies the changing in our times in terms of how we see meaning, heroism, mortality, morality, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's actually just the right time for the kind of stuff that I really want to do.
And all that led to this. But, you were bringing up, do you have directors that you'll show up for no matter what they're doing, filmmakers?
Mike Judge.
Yeah. There are people like that for me.
Really.
The first time I saw a Wes Anderson film, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm going to write it out. If he has a bad one, it doesn't matter. I'm coming back. And I think that's the kind of connection that you're talking about. But I remember when you did Successful Alcoholics on...
Yeah, Woody Allen. Sorry, I keep thinking a little bit behind. That's how much press I've been doing. My great witty comments come after you've already moved on from them. But we forgave... Woody Allen married his daughter. And it's like, everyone's like... okay, just keep making movies.
Right?
That's how important that stuff is. But I think if you have a connection to Wes Anderson as a director, then you do want him to keep making stuff, and you will suffer his missteps artistically and in general. That's okay, and it's important. But it also sometimes you'll make a comment and then you'll talk and then you'll realize that you didn't have anywhere to go with it, and then you talk about how you're talking about it and then you stop talking. Sorry.
Have you? Do you have a favorite Woody Allen? Is there a Woody Allen movie?
Yeah, I think Annie Hall was this great. I didn't know this. Did you guys know this piece of trivia? Star Wars was the same year as Annie Hall, and Annie Hall won the Oscar. And that's not to say that Star Wars should have won an Oscar, but that was a great example of like, if you make a perfect comedy, everyone is like, thank you, yes, best. That's the best. This is the best one. It's the best. That's great. So I think Annie Hall for me. But then I watch Kate watch Sleeper. And then I like that movie better because she's cracking up and she loves physical comedy so much. I would say, speaking of pratfalls, I would say I do a purposeful pratfall every single day just to make Kate laugh. And then I do a pratfall that wasn't on purpose, and I get hurt usually. That's true also.
Well, I think because Woody brought kind of that Marx Brothers humor back, but all in one person. Like he attempted to bring
that's a really good point.
To bring it all in together.
Yeah, because the Marx Brothers sort of had it all. And you're right, Woody Allen was able to be Harpo and Groucho and Chico because he is this character of himself. I mean, at a certain point he started being like, well, I can't play me anymore, so I guess I'll get Jason Biggs. Can you do me? Who else here can do a great impersonation of me? Because I'm the best. But I think... and you say Marx Brothers, I'm glad that you're, a scholar of comedy also. It's like W.C. Fields, Deadpool is more like W.C. Fields than I think anybody will ever even realize or care about. But that anti-hero is really important right now because we're starting to see the sham that is this hand-me-down Christian morality. Nietzsche saw it a while ago and was like, no one will understand this, I'll be long dead. And he's right. But we're starting to sort of see the pomposity of this PC morality, And what's weird is that we keep returning to, unfortunately, this like now we can't stop ourselves from attacking everyone for something. You know, we're always after each other for something. And I think that actually might be a symptom of like we hate ourselves for not living up to these fake standards that we're holding one another to. So instead of like taking accountability, we attack and lash out at whatever the blue plate special of who's doing everything wrong of the day. And I think we need to be easy on ourselves with regards to that also. So as people go nuts about this or that, or I mean, people have good points about all these things, but they don't need to go insane about it. Like, you're all going to die. Don't spend so much of your time on Twitter yelling about how women need equal pay. Yes, they do, absolutely. But don't be a bitch about it. Does that make sense?
No.
I know that soundbite will fuck up my career. That soundbite will fuck up my career. But like, don't spend your whole life bitching about this or that. Just don't do it. It's a waste of your time, and time is very important.
But I think people are very relaxed when someone else is getting attacked. You know, it's like the zebras when they're at the water hole. If the lion's hitting another zebra, you see other zebras go, "Oh, good."
Yeah, it's fine. So we're fine,
great.
Right? Exactly.
You know?
But I mean, yeah, I'm actually not even going to elaborate on that. That's the best zebra watering hole metaphor I've ever heard. That's very true. But yeah, exactly. And then the other terrible thing about celebrity is like, it's almost like you take a number once you become a celebrity and you just wait in line to get attacked.
Right.
And I wish it wasn't the case, but certain things have to be sacrificed if you're going to be a public servant, as you kind of put it. So that's fine. And I think it's unfortunate that some people are attacked with good cause. And there should be some attacks that are launched on people, but other people aren't. And then there's also just a thing of like, there's just Amy Schumer and I talk about this a fair amount. There's just people are mean-spirited. Some people are really mean-spirited, and so that Schadenfreude comes from when somebody is mean-spirited online. People kind of wish that they also could be mean, and so they get behind it. But I think that's okay. I mean, the biggest thing, especially for Kate and I, is like, you just have to also just not give a shit. I mean, it's just, and if you do give a shit, then at least for me, I'm sending the wrong message. And that's what the Critics' Choice was about, is if I had kowtowed and kind of gone out there and done a very good impression of Neil Patrick Harris as an awards show host, then I would have been sending the wrong message. When I say like, I do not give a shit about this, it is, I do not take this seriously, then ideally that's sending the right message also. And
you would have been fine if everybody would have just said, "Oh, that sucked. What was he doing? He did the..."
Yeah, people kind of, a couple interviews, people like, "So are you so nervous? God, you must be so nervous. Christian Bale's going to be there." And I kind of said, "No, I'm not." And yeah, I think if I can't get that room to like kind of loosen up and laugh along with the whole thing, then I probably shouldn't be working in Hollywood, or at least not doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I don't think I would have given a shit. And the other thing that's really lucky, and Kate and I had a long conversation about this last night, while not smoking marijuana, but just this conversation of like, we don't need Hollywood, and that is the scariest thing to Hollywood that there is when you exist in Hollywood and you don't desperately need it and need it to work and all this stuff. And I'm fortunate. The reason is because I'm a stand-up. Mm-hmm. So if you're a stand-up comic, you aren't at the mercy of the casting directors and the producers and all this stuff. And that's very powerful when I'm with the studio executive and they can feel that I don't give a shit if I'm in their movie or not, or if I'm in movies at all, or if I have anything to do with anything ever again. That's okay. Like, I really am a person who would be very happy being a dishwasher in Chanute, Kansas, because there's so much more to life than this one thing. But then all that being said, it is paramount to me, and no pun intended, although pun achieved, it's too Martin to say. It is paramount to me to work with Warner Brothers. No, but I do think it's so important because we have such influence on such a global scale through Hollywood. So yeah, I mean, I've been joking around lately about like I am the new Hollywood, the one that like is both irreverent and doesn't give a shit, but also is so grateful to be here and grateful to be paid for being funny. I mean, that's such a weird and wonderful American thing that people are like, God, it's so terrible. You know what? We should pay people to make us laugh.
Right.
Like that is so funny, and so gratifying. You know, also that like such a ridiculous job could be so highly prized and rewarded.
Yeah, that is amazing. That when you think it's a hobby for a lot of people, like they're the funny guy at their office or whatever. And
I'm really no better than your funny friend at the office. I just have worked harder and chose this vocation. We also need the people at the water cooler to make the snarky remark about Daryl in accounting. You know what I mean? Like they serve an important purpose as well.
Yeah. You know, there really is a Daryl in our accounting office here. So
is that real?
Yeah, I hope he doesn't get upset.
I just look up. He's hands against the glass, like fuck you.
Again, I've got to take
Stop
this shit.
it! Yeah, it's bad enough that I have a name that sounds like I'd be in accounting.
Well, it's a phenomenal thing. I brought this up before about seeing Successful Alcoholics the first time online, and just thinking that was.
And I remember you mentioned that to me. Thank you. After you left, I remembered that you said how much that meant to you.
Yeah, I stopped you in the hall here because I just thought it was a phenomenal piece, and also I thought it was more mature than your age at the time. I thought it was beyond your years.
Thank you, because I look back at it, of course, like you do with everything, and I'm like, boy, this dialogue is canned. Like, what the fuck was I writing? And but yeah, that's what Ex-Criminals will be like. It's like that's my tone that I've been working on, but I had to do. There's a lot to do before I can actually bring that to a major motion picture. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the idea behind Successful Alcoholics, if you guys haven't seen it, it's online, but it's this short film that I did with Lizzie Kaplan, and Lizzie is probably going to be an Ex-Criminals, so that'll be a good like repairing of the two of us. It's kind of it's what I'm obsessed with is like the saddest stories being hilarious all the way through, and because that's kind of how I see life. It's like it's the saddest story, but it's hysterical, and so. Successful Alcoholics and Difficult Time Killing My Parents, which I don't know if you've seen that, but that was another short film. It's called I'm Having a Difficult Time Killing My Parents. So it's a really light comedy. It's like Fuller House, but before. And I think Ex-Criminals will be an actualization of that tone that thankfully you responded to. And yeah, I mean, you know, those are the movies that I want to make, and you can't write a movie that you star in until you've done a lot of stuff in Hollywood. But luckily now finally I've done enough in Hollywood that Spielberg was like, all right, we'll give you a shot. And you know, you got to hit a home run or strike out, but don't do anything in between. That's how I felt about the Critics' Choice Awards.
But yeah, you have to also live a certain amount of life, I think, before you can pull
I think
off.
that's really true. Yeah. And I think also Ex-Criminals is not, it's the plot is that, like, you guys know Bonnie and Clyde, I hope. It's a Bonnie and Clyde bank robbing couple that break up a few days before their biggest job. And then they both agree not to do it because it was a job they're going to do together. And then on Thursday, they both show up with separate crews. Everybody gets arrested except for them. Yeah, having lied to each other. Everybody gets arrested except for them, and then they're headed to the Mexican border. She has the papers and the contact to get them across the border with citizenship, like documentation. And then in the movie, I won't let her touch the money. So everywhere I go, I'm holding this duffel bag of like several $1 million, and she gets it wet because she bathes in the money at one point. And anyway, but the point of that movie though is, you know, it has a hook, which is the bank robbery thing, but it is it's so much about something that we all can relate to, which is two people who love each other and want to be together more than anything else in the world, and they just can't. They just shouldn't. And they both know that, but it doesn't matter because they still, and we've all been in that relationship where we're like, we can make it work. There has to be some algorithm, some sort of equation, some way to make this work. And the truth is, there isn't. you know? And so that's really what the movie is about. And I think that'll be good. So as you can see, it's a very sad and heavy story, but it's, you know, it's still me with the voice that I have in my oblong body and my strange, like, screaming cadence and, you know, all that. So it should be, if we can get it right, which I think we will, it might be a great movie. But you pursue that. Coming back to Woody Allen, you know, I say, like, Ryan Reynolds really did it. He made, like, this is the perfect execution of him as a comedian, an actor, everything. And Woody Allen has said, he's like, I want to make a great movie. I want to make a perfect movie. And he's like, and that's why I keep making movies, because I never have.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting, too. I mean, that he makes Annie Hall, and he's like, nope.
Didn't happen.
No, I'm going to try. Okay, let's try. Is it Midnight in Paris? Is it about this? Is it this or that? And I think, unfortunately, I suspect I'll be in the same boat, that as soon as I make what other people consider to be a great movie, I'll be like, okay, well, no, let's try this. And that's good, because it'll propel me forward to keep making stuff, but it's not great for my personal life. You know, you ideally would make something great and then kind of not fade away, but then just recede into stand-up comedy and let that be the way that I talk with and make audiences laugh. But film has such permanence. And my whole mission statement is to make as many people laugh as possible, hence Transformers 4. Somehow I'm driven by the idea that there's someone in China like, that guy screamed a lot. He was funny. I liked that. But, you know, I have to do film to reach markets that I can't physically go to. And also, I need to create content that you can return to when I'm not there. So stand-up isn't enough, essentially.
Well, Deadpool this weekend, everybody. You got to go out and see it. And
you can tell from my, it's going to be hilarious from this incredibly serious and grave interview.
Well,
I want to see that movie. He talks about death a lot. What is going on? But yeah, it is a great movie, and I think that it's a movie that we need right now. Because again, if you love it or hate it, it's going to open up this genre that's here to stay, in my opinion, unfortunately. But it is here to stay. And so we hopefully can see, I want Wolverine to be R-rated. I want us to make other movies. They should make movies of lesser known. No offense to Paul Rudd, who is a friend. They should make movies that are lesser known characters, but are not PG-13. That are not in that realm. And I think we'll see that. And that was my big decision, you guys. Was I was like, I'd rather be a part of bringing you all Deadpool instead of bringing you a 50th R-rated wedding movie. You know, it's like, we've done that. It's happened. We did it. Let's do the next thing. Let's do something else. So I'm hoping that people like Deadpool, but also respond to it, and it's successful, because it will spur, hopefully not derivatives of it, but it will hopefully get Hollywood to be like, all right, let's take some more risks. They pay off. They certainly do.
Dude, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you, man.
Here
I
today.
appreciate you.
And
it was really fun.
It was really fun for me too, and I love the fact that you showed up for a show called Unmasked wearing a mask on your shirt. That's pretty amazing. TJ Miller, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
That was fucking great, dude.